Hello. So I'm going to start telling my story, which I call the 360 degrees of politics, because I have pretty much been everywhere on the political spectrum, more or less. And I did go around kind of almost full circle. So I was raised in a family that was quite socialist, and I'll go into some details about that in a bit. And I haven't ended up back at socialism per se, but I've certainly come quite far along from the libertarianism that represented, I guess, about 10 plus years of my academic life. And I wrote many, many books and essays and papers and monographs and other kinds of things from quite a libertarian perspective. So it's not like I just dabbled and then moved on. It was quite a serious passion and career for me. So I'm going to tell you this story. I'm going to go into some personal detail, which is not what I've done in the past, either in my academic work or in any sort of my podcasts and YouTube videos before. So this is a new thing. I also hope that if people like it and are interested in my background and my thoughts on these issues, that I will also branch out in future podcasts. I will go into specific details on some reasons for why I believe the things that I believe these days, or rather, I wouldn't necessarily call them beliefs, but sort of the perspective and framework that I've taken on, and the kinds of things that I think matter now, and the critiques that I have of various models and theories that are out there. And I'll also, in addition to going into detail on theory and policy, I hope to also interview other people who have not stuck with one perspective their whole life and have found new insights, because that's what really this is about, is what kinds of insights have I found by fully looking at and embracing different perspectives and critiquing them. And sort of when you first hear about something, about a new theory or idea, sometimes it seems really like obviously true, and you just embrace it. And until you actually see it from the other side or critique it, you may not realize where it falls short. And it's a little bit like in a court case. If you read what the first lawyer says, or you listen to the first lawyer, you'll say, oh wow, well obviously that this, clearly that's the correct side. And then you hear the other lawyer and then you go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And so I think that's a little bit like what I've done. I was raised socialist, and everything seemed true. I went on rallies and protests, and I marched up and down, demanding a higher minimum wage and all of this stuff. I do remember someone coming up to me one day when I was a teenager and saying, what about this higher minimum wage do you like? And I said, well, obviously people should get paid more. And they confronted me with another side, like, well, what if then they just lose their job because maybe they don't actually earn for the company as much as that higher minimum wage would be, so then they just lose their jobs. And it was something I hadn't thought of. And at one of these protests, I even spoke to a CEO. He was, on his way inside the World Bank or wherever it was that we were protesting in New York. And he said, well, if you raise that minimum wage like that, I'm going to lay off all of those people and replace them with machines. And he was even talking about, I said, how dare you? You're hiring people in China for $1 a day. And he said, well, it was better than what they made before. And if they make me pay those Chinese workers more, I'm just not going to use them at all. And this was eye-opening for me, and it was my first glimpse of reasons why some of the simplistic policies and ideas that I had been raised to believe in fully might, have limits. Just might have limits. It's not to say there shouldn't be any minimum wage, or I'm not making that argument. But I was just able to see for the first time reasons why some of the things that sound really good might turn out not to be as good as they sound. And ultimately that's what led me to the passion that I had for for understanding and exposing the flaws, the economic flaws in socialism. So I'll make that story into the second short introductory podcast.